and welcome to Knit with Hannah. I'm Hannah. I'm here to talk about Aran yarn today. What is it? Why do we call it Aran yarn? Hi and welcome to Knit with Hannah. I'm Hannah. I'm here with Knitting Ladder to help you learn to knit the easy way. Yes, let's talk about Aran yarn, shall we? So if you enjoyed last week's video and you're looking forward to this one, how about subscribing? You'll be notified of every other video that comes up. I'm here every Tuesday and every week, and if you hit the little bell, then YouTube will let you know when those videos appear. So let's talk about Aran yarn then and answer that big question. What is it? First thing to note is that a lot of the stories out there about Aran yarn are actually made up. Let's just put it out there, shall we? A lot of the history, a lot of the origin stories out there about Aran yarn aren't actually true. Let's just talk about the very bare facts, shall we? This term, Aran yarn, is more widely used in the UK and Ireland than elsewhere. We're going to recognise Aran yarn as a particular weight of yarn, and also Aran knitting is recognised as a particular type of knitting. An Aran jumper is a cabled jumper. It's full of cables all up the sleeves, on the cabling on the neck, and all the way down the front and back. That's an Aran jumper. So yeah, that is what we recognise as Aran. Now, Aran yarn is seen, and I never came across the term worsted until we started to share more on the internet, and I learnt that worsted yarn was some kind of substitute weight description for Aran yarn, maybe in the late 90s and through the noughties. It was just one of those things that started to mix its way into our language in the UK, because worsted yarn is the term that's used for a very similar weight yarn in the United States. I was brought up knowing that Aran yarn was the medium weight yarn. Wasn't quite as thin as DK and not quite as thick as chunky. Let's just talk about the weight before we talk about the origin of the yarn. The weight of the yarn is 10 plies. That describes the number of fibres that go into making the yarn. And if you go and have a look at the DK yarn video, I'll link it up here, then you'll realise that 10 ply is a very old scale. That, yeah, you don't really need to count the number of fibres that are in the yarn, because it can be 1 ply but it's still the same thickness. It can have 3 main fibres in it but it's still the same thickness. So that scale doesn't really count anymore, but it's just a way of describing it, and it's a way of recognising that it's slightly thicker than this one and it's slightly thinner than that one. You will use 5mm needles for this. And if you watched last week's video from worsted yarn, you will recognise that possibly Aran is slightly thicker, because Aran weight yarn uses 5mm needles and it's 10 ply. Worsted is 9 ply and it uses 4.5mm. So yes, there is that slight difference. Many times it will not be recognisable, but there is that very slight difference. So be aware if you need to substitute yarn. Look at the ball bands, test a sample, just to make sure that the yarn will substitute happily. This yarn weight can also be called heavy worsted because it is that tiny bit thicker. So yeah, if you are using yarn that's created in the United States and you're looking for something that will substitute for Aran, if you look for heavy worsted, you may well find exactly what you need. Let's talk about the fact or fiction side of Aran yarn and its origin story. It is known, and this is very probably true, that yarn was being created in the Aran Islands off the west coast of Ireland in the late 19th and the early 20th century. So that is kind of set in history, and we can kind of set that in place and say, yeah, that is most likely true. What comes into being a bit of a fiction story is how prominent actually knitting the Aran sweaters, the Aran jumpers, the Aran cardigans, actually from the Aran Islands is. This is known, in the outside world as a marketing ploy. You can give an origin story to something just so that it feels so much more beneficial and old and sustainable. There's a lot more proof behind it. For example, let's look at Coca-Cola. Did Santa drink Coca-Cola? Possibly not, but Santa, nice and jolly with his Victorian Christmas tree sat in the corner of the room, suggests that Santa in the Victorian era was drinking Coca-Cola. Probably wasn't. So we kind of think that that isn't likely, but nevertheless, it's a marketing ploy. It's saying, this has been going on for ages. Santa drinks it, and he has done for centuries. So, yeah, let's just take that as read. The origin story of Aran yarn has been fabricated to a point because of marketing. Cabling on knitwear has only been going on for so long. Now, the real bonus of the yarn that was being created in the Aran Islands was that it was very heavy lanolin wool. The sheep out there had to survive in very wet conditions, so they kind of grown up and evolved to waterproof the fleece that they grew. And when it was then, when it was shorn, when it was created into yarn, that was very well recognised. This is perfect for fishermen's sweaters. And yeah, that was perfect. So this Aran yarn had a kind of water-resistant coating to it because of the high lanolin content. That's one of those things. However, creating those jumpers with lots and lots of cabling, with all of the different stories that go behind the different types of cabling, that's probably not true. Yes, the cables look like rope. Yes, the moss stitch looks like seeds and soil in the ground in the potato famine of Ireland, but it's probably not true. We can make up stories about cabling for ourselves if we want to. I've created this cable pattern because it looks like one of the flowers in my garden. Go for it, that's fine. But the original stories probably aren't true. So there you go, that's Aran yarn and Aran knitting for you. And yeah, it's just a case of recognising that Aran is a medium weight yarn, 5mm needles, and just slightly thicker than worsted yarn. And there's an amazing history behind the Aran yarn that was first created in the Aran Islands. And yeah, it's a bit of a fun story about all the Aran knitting as well. Thanks so much for joining me today. Do go and have a look at the yarn playlist. Knitting Yarn 101 is right there for you. Lots of different tips about choosing your yarn, all of the information about the different weights of yarn and different types of yarn. Go and have a look at that if you want to. And of course, do subscribe and hit the notifications bell. I'm here every week, every Tuesday, ready and waiting with another video. I'll see you again soon. Bye for now. Happy knitting.